Much, 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 much less expensive, much less materials. You got 1/100th as much steel that goes into it, and you have more stability.
And does adding more steel to the base of the machine to stop the vibrations, does that decrease the amount of power that you could potentially get?
For me?
For anyone?
Well, no, that just has to do with stability. That's because there's
doesn't slow down the rotational?
No, it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. It just, my solution means it's going to be cheaper and it's going to be more stable. It also means it's easier to install because I don't have to go deep into the ground. One thing you don't see with the propeller turbines is those towers go at least 50% of the tower height into the ground. So some of the larger turbines, they can go 50, 60 meters into the ground. That's very expensive, a lot of steel. It's very hard to hold these posts still. I don't have to do that. I don't have to go into the ground at all. I can just put some concrete pads and just right on the surface.
That's awesome. There was another thing that you were mentioning about the turbines in Holland. You said at top wind speeds, they weren't producing.
Power falls off.
Yes.
Okay, as we get to top wind speeds, I'm in control of the pitch. I'm in control of how strong the wind is hitting the blade. I'm in perfect control all the time. I can do whatever I want to do. So as we get into high speed, even hurricane speed, I can feather the blade so I can create as little force as I want, so that no matter how strong the force is, I can keep generating power even at 150 miles an hour and without worrying about tearing it apart. If you take a piece of plywood and you put it in line with the wind at 150 miles an hour, it's no big deal. It's not going to hurt the plywood at all. If you turn it sideways, it's going to tear it apart. Well, basically what I do is I keep it almost head on and just turn a little bit to generate enough power so I can continue to generate at any speed. And it's always safe. I have to keep moving, I have to keep rotating in a storm. I can't be stationary.
Right. Is that a problem with many wind turbines during a storm? They get blown apart?
The propeller turbines, they yaw them, they turn them sideways into the wind. So they're lined up. But there's still problems. It's because you never can be completely clean. The blade's always got a twist to it and always has something, plus the wind can shift very quickly.
How long have you been working on your wind turbine?
Oh, 5 years, since Holland. About 5 years. It's been a long time. And the main problem has been, not really a problem, it's been the innovation that's occurred. I see a better way to do it, a better way to do it, a better way to do it. And as a result, what I have today is less than half the cost of what I had last year.
Let's talk about cost. Let's talk about me as a consumer if I wanted one. Tell me about how long I could make, how long would it take for me to get my money back?
It would take, for you as a consumer, with subsidies.
Subsidies aren't available everywhere, right?
Yeah, they are. Just about everywhere.
Don't they differ from state to state?
Yes, dramatically.
And is California a good place for winter?
California's very good.
Okay, so anyway, back to the, I digress.
That's important. If my machine generates, my little baby one, my little, it's 8-foot blades, generates 10,000 watts. And at 10,000 watts, there's about a $20,000 subsidy in California. There's a $10,000 subsidy from the federal government, plus about 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour, plus some accelerated depreciation. So by the time you get done with, as a consumer, you're pretty close to zero.
Can I power my house off of your baby?
Yeah. Requires being in good wind conditions. You couldn't do it in Los Angeles. Maybe Palmdale or Lancaster, but generally you can't. You're not going to do it in downtown LA. There isn't enough wind. You need some strong winds. You need some really strong winds. And the urban environment is not a good place for it. You need to have it pretty rural. But California's got some good wind spots. Tehachapi up by San Francisco Bay, and of course Palm Springs. There's some really strong winds. And
what were you mentioning, 2 cents per kilowatt hours?
2.5 cents per kilowatt hour subsidy by the federal government, and that goes forever.
Okay.
That works out with my machine about $5,000 a year. forever.
But I am not allowed to sell my power to the grid here in California. Is that correct? If I have excess?
No, you can. You can. There's something called net metering, where you can hook up to your meter, and basically your meter runs backwards when you're contributing more than you're using.
So I could, on average, or just on good windy days, I could power my home. Do you think I could do it every day if I lived in a good windy area?
Good windy area, yeah. Even good windy areas, some days have no wind. So if you're hooked to the grid, that's fine. With 10,000 watts average, it would take about 3 or 4 days for in a good windy area for you to supply the month for your house. But several days during that month, you're going to have no wind.
How would I store that power?
Well, on the grid, you just throw it back on the grid, and so you don't, the grid takes it.
Okay, so in that way I could.
You could store it. The other way is to use some kind of storage, and that's generally batteries. One solution, which I think is really interesting, which is coming up, is electric cars. Their batteries are pretty substantial. They're very expensive. These lithium-ion batteries for a car are about $20,000 for a typical car. So you've got a lot of battery storage there, and using your turbine, you can charge your car and keep your car charged. And if you've got 2 cars, you can charge both of your cars and keep them charged, and never have to buy fuel, never have to pay for the charging your cars. So they make a really good place to store.
That would be good for your machine. Now we've got to wrap it up here, but you haven't gone into production quite yet. That's coming up any minute now. And how about for the consumer? If someone is interested in your product, where can they go to find out about it?
Verticalpowersystems.com. Verticalpowersystems.com. There's a website, and it explains. You can see the sort of the science. It explains it a little bit better. I tried to write it for children to understand, and also for the more sophisticated people also. So you can see what we've got, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. One thing I didn't mention is on cost. I'm roughly about 3 times as efficient compared to the
traditional turbines?
The traditional, yeah, in terms of swept area.
In terms of swept area.
Swept area. If you looked at the area of the circle, that's called the swept area. On mine, it would be, if it's spinning this way, it's more like a rectangle. And if you take that rectangle and compare it to a circle, the swept area, I'm about 3 times more efficient. I'm right at the theoretical limit.
And you're cheaper too, right?
And about 20% the cost.
20% the cost of an equally sized turbine.
So as it turns out, this machine that I'm making is the cheapest way to generate electricity, including coal-fired plants, including solar, including hydroelectric, including anything you want to throw at it. This is the cheapest way to get electricity that is known to humanity.
So you're going to take over the world, huh? Hopefully.
I hope so. For the
as
not
far
for my
as
benefit,
changing it for the better, huh?
For the benefit of the world, we got to do something. This is serious. Oil's over. Oil's over, and we got to do something.
And it's only getting more expensive all the time, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's getting more scarce. So we have to do something quickly. This is my best shot at it.
So do you ever envision us driving cars with wind turbines on the top?
No, but cars that are charged by the turbines that you have at home.
Anyway, well, thank you for coming on the show, Bob. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. You were watching Stand Up and Scream. As I said, our guest was Bob Essertier. The product is the vertical wind turbine, and you can find out all about it at verticalpowersystems.com. Thank you very much. Thanks. It was really great, and enjoyed your product and presentation.
You didn't get a chance to say anything.
It's okay.
I did all
it's all about you, right?